Do you believe a simple gesture can change a family's life forever? This is one of those questions that seems overwhelming, almost philosophical, but today you'll see how the answer can lie in a seemingly ordinary scene on any given day, in the middle of a busy street. Imagine for a moment a delivery person, someone who spends all day racing against time, balancing packages, deadlines, and chaotic traffic. Now, imagine a small, distracted child who approaches the edge of the road without realizing the danger. Two different worlds intersecting in a matter of seconds, and it is precisely at that moment that something no one could have predicted happens, something that made an entire city pause to reflect on courage, instinct, and humanity. This kind of story doesn't come along every day, but when it does, it has an almost universal power. Who hasn't experienced a moment when everything could change in the blink of an eye? A distraction, a decision, a gesture that separates relief from tragedy. And it was in this scenario of honking horns, haste, and movement that a delivery man became a hero, not by choice, but because life presented him with an immediate decision, the kind that doesn't allow for thought, only action. Have you ever wondered what you would do in a situation like this? Would you run into danger to save someone you don't even know? Or would you be paralyzed by the fear of getting hurt? These are questions that touch us deeply because they force us to face the truest side of what it means to be human. What happened that day wasn't just an act of courage, it was also a reality check for everyone there. Because the scene of a delivery man dropping everything to save a child running into traffic is one that stays etched in your memory. The tension, the sudden silence, followed by the mother's scream and the looks of those around you. All of this transformed a moment of fear into a story of hope. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now may surprise you, especially when it reveals not only the rescuer's actions, but also the mother's first words upon seeing her son in the arms of a stranger. This story isn't just about saving a life. It's about how compassion and courage can emerge in the most unlikely moments. It's about how unexpected acts of kindness have the power to restore faith in humanity. Think about it. How many times have you passed someone on the street without realizing what they were going through? How many times in your haste made you overlook a detail that could have been crucial? The delivery man that day didn't have that privilege of ignoring. He saw, he felt, and he acted. And it was precisely this attitude that transformed not only the child's life, but also the perception of everyone who witnessed the scene. The most striking thing is that, amid the shock and emotion, the mother's words weren't what everyone expected. And this generated even more repercussions. Because when the heart speaks louder, what's revealed isn't just emotion, but also hidden truths that often only come to light in the face of such a great fright. And that's when this story stops being just about a rescue and becomes about reflection, about impact, about how every decision we make can transform into something much bigger than we imagine. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because the way everything happened, and especially that mother's reaction, will show you that life has surprising ways of teaching us lessons that we will never forget. And when we stop to think, we realize that it's not just great heroic acts that transform someone's life, but simple choices that carry immense power within them. A delivery man who doesn't hesitate to risk himself to save a child, a mother who speaks words no one expected to hear, an entire community touched by such a brief yet meaningful moment. This is where I want to share a space with you. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what touched you most about this story so far. Maybe it was the courage, maybe the unexpected, maybe the way small gestures reveal greater truths about who we are. Sharing your perspective is more important than it seems, because that's how the conversation expands and reaches more people who need to hear messages like these. And if you're feeling this connection, I invite you to like this video, because every like helps strengthen this type of content to continue reaching hearts. And of course, if you want to continue following stories that inspire and spark real reflection, subscribe to the channel. This ensures you don't miss anything and that we can continue together on this journey of transformation. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, so feel part of this construction. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. The scene begins with the simplicity of an ordinary day, yet marked by the rush that seems to govern our cities. Cars speed past, horns echoing from all sides, pedestrians rushing across the street, each immersed in their own commitments. It is in this environment of constant noise that we often miss details that could make all the difference. But fate seemed to have prepared a moment that would remain etched in everyone's memory. On the corner of the street, amidst footsteps and distracted glances, stood a small child, her innocence reflected in her curious gaze and her light body completely unaware of the danger surrounding her. While everyone rushed to get to work, pay bills, or answer phone calls, she slowly approached the edge of the road, as if the world around her were incapable of threatening her. It's in this contrast between the adult's haste and the childish naivete that the tension begins to build. The spectator's heart almost stops for a moment. Will anyone notice? The passing seconds seem eternal, and each horn honks like a warning that something terrible could happen. The crowd continues indifferently, as if living in a bubble of urgency, unaware of the drama about to unfold before their eyes. And it is precisely in this space, between imminent danger and collective indifference, that the stories that most impact us emerge, because they reveal the hidden truth about how our choices, even in fractions of a second, can change everything. The delivery man, amidst the hustle and bustle of his daily routine, was the only one who noticed. Carrying on his shoulders the weight of a lifetime of effort and work, his attention was not only on the order he was supposed to deliver, but also on the life pulsating around him. Perhaps it was instinct, perhaps the sensitivity of someone who learned to observe beyond the rush. His eyes captured the child's innocent movement, and in that instant, time seemed to stand still. The honking horns, the hurried footsteps, the noise of the city, everything faded into the background. All that remained was the scene of a small body about to advance into a space dominated by heavy, fast-moving machinery, a threshold between life and tragedy. This is where we understand the value of decisions. Life often presents us with moments that demand more than logic. They demand courage, a mindset of presence, and the ability to prioritize what truly matters. The delivery man could have ignored it, could have thought it wasn't his problem, like so many others around him. But no, the impulse to act was stronger than fear or doubt. This contrast is what teaches us. There are situations where hesitation is too costly, and immediate decision-making is what defines the impact of our journey. This moment shows that transformation isn't just found in great stories told in books, but in small, everyday gestures that suddenly become extraordinary. It's behind the scenes of life, when no one expects it, that profound revelations happen. The child had no idea of the risk. The mother wasn't paying attention. The drivers just wanted to get on their way. But the delivery man, this seemingly ordinary character, was about to write a story of courage that would make an entire community reflect on solidarity, empathy, and humanity. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because what happens in the next few seconds isn't just a physical rescue, but a true emotional impact that forever changes the way we see the details of life. Comment: That makes sense to me. It was in a flash, almost as if the world had slowed down, that the delivery man realized. His eyes, trained by the routine of observing busy streets every day, captured the detail no one else had noticed: the small figure about to take the fatal step. His heart raced instantly, and his breath caught in his chest. It was as if, in a fraction of a second, the universe had placed upon him the responsibility of deciding whether to act or let fate take its course of no return. The noise of the city seemed distant. The cars still moved forward, but for him, only that child and the invisible line between life and tragedy existed. At times like these, the mind doesn't reason with long calculations. It's instinct, it's courage, it's total surrender to the moment. The delivery man felt cold sweat run down the back of his neck, but there was no room for hesitation. His body reacted even before he could think. The impulse to run toward the child was automatic, as if something inside him screamed that there was no other option. The luggage he carried in his hands suddenly seemed weightless, tossed aside in a natural reflex of someone who understands, without words, that nothing is more valuable than a life. Time, which for us is measured in minutes and hours, for him was reduced to a handful of milliseconds. Each step he took toward the child was accompanied by images that his mind projected at lightning speed. The impact of a car, a mother's scream, the eternal regret of having done nothing. These images, though unreal, were the spark that ignited his action. He needed to change the course of that story before it became a real tragedy. This decisive moment reveals a lot about the human mindset when faced with extreme situations. We're not always driven by what's clear and obvious, but by what we carry within: values, beliefs, protective instincts. It's as if, in that second, the delivery man's entire life story converged into a single gesture, a single choice. An invisible backstage was revealed, showing that even the quickest decisions carry a depth we rarely perceive. The sweat, the racing heart, the dry throat, all part of a scene where every detail had an impact. The wind that hit her face, the sound of an approaching car engine, the innocent expression of the child, unaware of the danger. All of this blended into an intense, almost cinematic composition that only heightened the tension of the moment. What was at stake was not just the safety of a child, but the proof that small actions in situations of risk can transform not only a life, but also the way an entire community understands solidarity. What if he had hesitated? That's the question that echoes within anyone who hears this story. Because the hidden truth of our decisions lies precisely in what we don't see, the possible futures we fail to live out due to a lack of courage. The delivery man could have stood still, explaining that it wasn't his problem, like so many others on the street. But that wasn't the way to go. Instead of allowing fear to overwhelm him, he chose to trust his instincts, and that changed absolutely everything. He thought of nothing beyond what was before his eyes. Instinct spoke louder than any logic, stronger than any fear. With an almost superhuman impulse, the delivery man dropped his bike in the middle of the street, the metallic sound echoing like an urgent warning. His feet shot against the asphalt, each step a violent thud, as if he were fighting against time itself. The scene seemed to unfold in slow motion. The distracted child, the approaching car, and that man who, without even introducing himself, decided to shoulder the responsibility of changing destiny. The wind blew in his face, but there was no room to dwell on the danger he himself was in. His focus was entirely on the child, on the small body walking innocently toward the unknown. The rumble of approaching tires heightened the tension, and yet his mind was in absolute silence. There was no more city, no more horns, no more audience, just him and that life about to be ripped away. It was in that instant that the act of courage became concrete. His firm hand grabbed the child's arm with a sure tug, quick, desperate, but full of love, the kind of love that doesn't need a blood bond to exist. The car passed close by, the breath of danger still echoing in the air. But tragedy had been averted by seconds. Seconds that may seem trivial to those merely observing, but which carry within them the weight of a lifetime. The delivery man fell to his knees, panting, his heart pounding like a drum inside his chest, while the child looked at him with a mixture of surprise and innocence. And it is precisely this look that reveals the hidden truth behind acts of courage. They are not made for applause, not calculated for recognition. They are born of a pure, genuine decision to put others before oneself. This act exposes an invisible part of our humanity. We often live as if numb, racing against the clock, too busy to notice what's happening around us. But when someone breaks this cycle and shows, through their actions, that small decisions can have a huge impact, collective perception shifts. The delivery man not only saved a life, but also something greater. The reminder that solidarity still exists, that there are still those who place empathy above fear, and that simple acts can rewrite entire histories. And have you noticed how these moments offer powerful lessons for our own mindset? Because deep down, we all face crossroads where we must choose between the comfort of inaction and the courage to act. This choice doesn't always involve saving someone from a car, but it can be present in everyday gestures. Standing up for someone who's been wronged, offering help when no one else reaches out, or even having the courage to stop one's own path to make a difference. What the delivery man did was, in practice, live what many talk about but few put into action. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because the impact of this gesture wasn't limited to that intersection, nor to that moment frozen in time. It spread like an invisible wave, reaching those nearby and even those who heard about it later. It's at this point that the story takes on another dimension, revealing behind-the-scenes transformations that go far beyond the rescue itself. Comment: that makes sense to me. The silence that followed the rescue seemed too heavy to be real. Hearts still pounded in the chests of those who witnessed the scene, as if time had been stretched to its limit. The child, saved by a thread, remained in the arms of the delivery man, confused, trying to understand why she was there and not under the wheels of the car that roared past just inches away. And then, just as everyone expected a predictable outcome, the outpouring of thanks, the desperate hugs, the words of gratitude that usually come at such moments, something happened that no one could have anticipated. The mother, in tears, ran to her son with tearful eyes, but her first words weren't of relief or praise for the man who had just saved her child. Instead, what came out of her mouth was so unexpected that it sent a collective shock through everyone present. Her emotion was so intense that her breath seemed to falter. And yet, what she said didn't align with what everyone had imagined. It wasn't the typical "thank you" or "you saved my life." It was something different, almost uncomfortable, that seemed to carry a hidden truth, a story that had not yet been revealed. The delivery man, sweaty, adrenaline still pumping through his veins, stood motionless, staring at her as if trying to decipher a riddle. The people around him were also captivated by that moment, not daring to interrupt. The atmosphere was one of absolute suspense, because the unexpected has this power. It shatters our certainties and creates space for doubt. The question echoing in everyone's mind was simple and disturbing. Why did she say that? Why, faced with the miracle of seeing her son alive, did her first words carry more weight than relief? This is the kind of moment when we realize that human stories are never linear. There's always an extra layer, a backstory, a revelation that changes the way we interpret events. Perhaps that mother had a past marked by fears no one saw. Perhaps her words hid pains not visible to the naked eye. Or perhaps there was something even deeper, something that would only be revealed if we paid attention to the detail everyone was about to ignore. And here's the point. It's not just heroic gestures that leave an impression on us, but also the words that accompany them. They can transform a scene of courage into something even more enigmatic and impactful. What she said opened an invisible wound, but also illuminated a new perspective on everything that had happened. And that's precisely what captivates those who hear this story. The feeling that a piece of the puzzle is still missing, that there's a greater truth behind that unexpected reaction. The streets that seconds before seemed like just another ordinary scene of honking horns, hurried footsteps, and listless routines suddenly transformed into a stage charged with emotion. The moment the delivery man pulled the child back onto the sidewalk reverberated like a collective shock, and those present felt part of something extraordinary. That stretch of asphalt, so often a scene of haste and indifference, was now marked by a gesture of courage that no one could ignore. Some spectators clapped their hands over their mouths, unable to hold back their tears. Others, their hearts still racing, began to applaud in relief, as if the sound of applause was the only way to express their feelings. And there were also those who, silently, simply let the tears flow, for what they witnessed touched something much deeper than mere momentary shock. It was as if each person had been invited to reflect on the fragility of life, on how a fraction of a second can define the difference between tragedy and hope. Eyes met, strangers approached, and everyone was united, even if only for a brief moment, by an invisible bond of humanity. People who had never exchanged a word now shared the same emotion, as if connected by a thread of silent solidarity. And it's in these kinds of situations that we realize how unexpected acts can break down social barriers, shatter everyday indifference, and remind us of something essential. Deep down, we all carry the same need to believe that there is still goodness in the world. The delivery man, panting, hardly knew how to react to this explosion of emotions. As he held the child securely in his arms, the eyes around him stared at him as if he were an unlikely hero, a symbol that quick choices can save entire destinies. The air carried a mixture of tension and relief, and this energy was so palpable you could almost touch it. It was as if the universe had paused for everyone to grasp the value of this moment before life resumed its normal course. This collective commotion demonstrates the power of a single act. It not only saved a life, but also inspired a sense of transformation in everyone present. Each witness took home a story to tell, a reminder that the unexpected can bring out the best in us, and that there are decisions that, even made in seconds, echo forever in the hearts of those who see them. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic because the mother's immediate reaction was as surprising as the rescue itself, and it's in this detail that the story gains a new layer of impact. Comment: that makes sense to me. It's amazing how life can turn upside down in the blink of an eye. How many times have you found yourself rushing around, preoccupied only with your own problems, oblivious to what's happening around you? This scene with the delivery man and the child isn't just a moving tale of courage. It's a universal reminder that life is made up of fragile moments in which everything can change. A second of carelessness, a reflexive decision, an unexpected gesture, and suddenly, history changes forever. It's at this point that the reflection becomes even more profound. Are we prepared to notice these moments? We often live as if each day were just a repetition of the last. Work, traffic, commitments, rush. But what the scene shows us is that routine can be interrupted at any moment by a revelation of what truly matters: solidarity. empathy, the ability to see beyond ourselves. The delivery man, without knowing the child or the mother, risked his life to save someone who could have been just another anonymous face. And it is in this simple yet extraordinary gesture that true transformation of mindset lies. When we understand that we are all part of the same journey, interconnected by invisible threads of humanity. It's curious to think that deep down, it's not great deeds or material achievements that define our existence, but rather these spontaneous acts that reveal our essence. Small gestures that sometimes go unnoticed, like holding a door, offering a smile, asking if someone is okay, can have an impact far beyond what we imagine. They may not save a life in the literal sense, but they can save a heart from loneliness, a mind from despair, or even rekindle the faith of someone who no longer believed in human kindness. This hidden truth of life is powerful. We don't need to be heroes in the classic sense of the word to spark waves of change. An unexpected act of kindness can resonate in invisible ways, reaching people we never imagined. The delivery man not only saved a child, he also reminded those present that there is still reason to believe in humanity. It's the silent impact that, even without applause, has the power to transform mindsets and inspire similar attitudes. And if we stop and think, how many opportunities do we miss because we're too distracted? How many times do we choose not to get involved, thinking it's none of our business? This episode challenges us to rethink decisions, question our priorities, and see that the rush of everyday life can't erase the importance of empathy, because ultimately it's these moments that shape not only the story of those who are saved, but also of those who act and those who bear witness. And if you've made it this far, it's because this story spoke to you in some way. So I want to invite you to continue walking with me. If this content resonated with you, leave a like to show that we're connected by this same energy, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories that bring such powerful reflections. Write in the comments the phrase, "I'm with you until the end," because it's beautiful to see how each word you say strengthens this community and helps this message reach even more people who need it. And before you go, there's a video here that complements this topic. Click and stay with me there.